Welcome to Ms. Dupree's math class. This video is a review of integer rules. Our first integer rules are for adding integers. If integers have the same sign, either both negative or both positive, then you add the two numbers and then just stick the sign on the front. If the integers have different signs, one is negative and one is positive, you subtract the numbers, bigger minus smaller, and give the answer the sign of whichever one was bigger. Now, I mean bigger by the absolute value is bigger, because obviously the positive integer is the bigger one. When you are subtracting integers, switch to adding the opposite of the second number and then follow the addition rules. What that means, if you have 2 minus 7, that means you're going to leave the 2 the same, change the minus to a plus, and change that 7 to a negative 7. Or if you had 2 minus negative 7, the 2 again is going to stay the same. The minus becomes a plus, negative 7 becomes its opposite, which is positive 7. Then you're just going to follow the addition rules. For multiplying and dividing integers, if the integers have the same sign, so either both are negative or both are positive, your answer is always positive. For multiplying and dividing, if they have different signs, so one is negative and one is positive, the answer is always negative. Finally, the order of operations. You can remember the order of operations either by remembering PEMDAS or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. The order of operations is parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. This is the order that you always solve equations. Multiplying and dividing are actually the same step, so they go together left to right. The same thing with adding and subtracting, they are the same step. You do them left to right. Let's do some examples. We have 6 plus 4. We're adding two numbers that have the same sign. They're both positive, so my answer is positive. 6 plus 4 makes 10. For 4 plus negative 6, they have different signs. The 6 is bigger, so I have more negatives. My answer is going to be negative. And then I take the bigger one minus the smaller one. So 6 minus 4 gives me 2. My answer is negative 2. For negative 3 plus negative 7, both numbers are negatives, which means my answer is negative, and then I just add the 3 and the 7, which makes my answer negative 10. Negative 5 plus 8, I have more positives. The 8 is bigger. My answer is positive. And then I take the 8 minus the 5, which leaves me with 3. And for negative 4 plus 9, I have more positives because the 9 is bigger. So I take 9 minus 4. My answer is 5. Now some subtraction examples. So reminder, we want to keep the first number the same, so that negative 6 stays the same. The minus becomes a plus, and that negative 5 will become its opposite, which is just positive 5. Negative 6 plus 5, I have more negatives. My answer is negative. And then I take the 6 minus the 5. My answer is negative 1. For negative 3 minus 13, I'm going to change it. So my negative 3 stays the same. My minus becomes a plus. My 13 becomes its opposite, which is negative 13. Negative 3 plus 13, negative 3 plus negative 13. They have the same sign, so I just add the two numbers, which makes a 16. And they're both negative, so my answer is negative 16. Negative 6 minus 9. My negative 6 stays the same. My minus becomes a plus. The 9 becomes its opposite, which is negative 9. Negative 6 plus negative 9, those two numbers have the same sign. So I'm going to add them together, which makes 15. Since they're both negative, my answer is negative 15. 5 minus 18. We're going to change it to 5 plus negative 18. Now my adding rules say that I take the sign of the bigger one, so my answer is going to be negative. Then I'll take the bigger minus the smaller, so 18 minus 5 is 13. My answer is negative 13. Negative 1 minus negative 11. The negative 1 stays the same. Minus becomes a plus. The negative 11 becomes a positive 11. Negative 1 plus 11, I have many more positives than negatives. So I take 11 minus 1, my answer is 10. 32 minus 35. I take 32 plus negative 35. I have more negatives, so my answer will be negative. 35 minus 32 is 3. So my answer is negative 3. Now for multiplication examples. Negative 4 times negative 7. I'm going to multiply just like normal. That's going to be a 28. A negative times a negative makes it positive, so my answer is just 28. 5 times negative 3. 5 times 3 is 15. A positive times a negative, they have different signs, so my answer is negative 15. Negative 4 times 3. They have different signs, my answer is negative, and 4 times 3 is 12. 5 times 7, both positives. My answer is just straightforward, 35. For dividing, negative 24 divided by 6. I have one negative, one positive, so my answer is negative. 24 divided by 6 is 4, so my answer is negative 4. 36 divided by 9, they're both positive. My answer is positive. 36 divided by 9 is 4. For negative 56 divided by negative 8, they have the same sign, so my answer is positive. 56 divided by 8 is 7. Negative 25 divided by negative 5. They have the same signs. My answer is positive. 25 divided by 5 is 5. So that is my answer. Negative 10 divided by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Since 1 is negative, 1 is positive, my answer is negative. Negative 5. And 15 divided by negative 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3. Positive divided by a negative is a negative. So my answer is negative 3. And some order of operations examples. We remember, we start inside of the parentheses. Inside of the parentheses, 6 plus 5 makes 11. So I have 10 minus 11. We change that to 10 plus negative 11. And my answer is negative 1. For the second one, we start inside of the parentheses, but we start with the division inside of the parentheses because division comes before subtraction. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So then we just copy the rest of the problem that we haven't gotten to yet. Now we're still inside the parentheses. 8 minus 3 is 5. So we have 12 and a 5. Remember, if there's no symbol, that means multiply. So 12 times 5 is 60. And for our last one, we're going to extend the page a little bit. We start with that division because division comes before addition. So we're going to have 1 plus 2 plus 3 divided by 3 is 1. And we copy everything else down. Now we just add across. 1 plus 2 is 3. We keep that plus 1 and the minus 9 on there. 3 plus 1 is 4. And that minus 9. At this point, I do not need those parentheses around the 4 anymore. They are not necessary. So 4 minus 9 we're going to rewrite as 4 plus negative 9. 4 plus negative 9, we have more negatives than positives, so my answer is negative 5. This is a quick review of your integer rules, and here's your assignment, the integer review packet.